This is June 10th, 1990, and Elizabeth Limor is continuing the interview that we started with her and her husband 2 or 3 weeks back. So would you start, Elizabeth, go back a bit to the day and time of liberation? What was that, January?
January 16 to 17.
1945.
45, yeah. As I mentioned before, it was not liberation. Nobody liberated us. We became suddenly free. Free to this extent that we didn't know how to deal with the freedom. We didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know where to go. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. In effect, Erwin, who was always a leader, was working with a bunch of people, and I was working also because there was nobody to hold us,
The
to stop
Germans
us.
had left. The Germans had left.
The Germans left. The Ukrainians were yet here and there, but almost left too.
The Ukrainians were in league with the Germans.
Yes, the Ukrainians were the one, I forgot the name of the general that they were in his service. They were many times more brutal than the Germans. Anyhow, they
and the
were...
Russians had come. The Russians had come.
We didn't see the Russians.
You did not.
We didn't see the Russians. As I mentioned before, a friend of ours who was in contact with the underground, he went out to town and he saw the Russians. He came to us, said the Russians are here. But the Russians did not come to open the gate and liberating us. We opened the gate because we decided that this was the moment to try to move. Maybe we will not be killed. Who knows? In effect, this is what we did. Erwin, who was a born leader, already had followers, people from his department where he was working. Matter of fact, I was working in the same department as he, and I knew him very casual. I knew what people talk about him, that he is a very good man, a reliable person, and that all respect was due him. But, you know, and he asked me if I have something to eat, because he saw me walking, not knowing where. And I said no. He said, we have one bread. And they were about 16, 20 people, I don't know. So they had the one bread. As I mentioned before, one of the Germans threw the bread, opened the place where they kept bread and threw bread in the masses. Who got bread had bread. Okay, we went there, and I don't remember if I spoke about Erwin missing his brother a night before. A night before, Erwin wanted to see his uncle, who was not in the concentration camp, only worked for the Germans outside. He was a painter and painted the apartments, the houses, whatever they needed. Feeling that something is going on, he wanted yet to say goodbye to his uncle. And he exchanged with somebody his shift. The other guy, you know, when the name, Erwin's name was called, he said he is him. And as we were by numbers and the people didn't know us, so it worked out. And he went out of the concentration camp with the workers who worked outside of the camp. And meanwhile, I believe 3,000 people were taken away. And we didn't know where. We heard only that people are taken away. Erwin, who always cared about his 13-year-old, at this time, brother, was absolutely, when he came back and saw that his brother is not there, was absolutely out of himself. And I, for the first time, that I paid attention to him really, because I saw a grown-up man crying. And this was the only time in my life that I saw him crying. But he cried so desperately. All the war he took care of his brother. And the last day he was taken away. Okay, we all tried to find out where the people are. Nobody knew. Some people said that they are on a side rail, standing, the train is standing. Nobody could go there to see. Some said that they are already driven away. We didn't know really a thing. Who is this? And the same night, we came out, the next morning we went out. We opened the gate, went out. Erwin was, of course, constantly thinking of his brother, but at the same time he had some kind of obligation to the 20 people that wanted to be with him. And he found us a place in this was former a synagogue that the Germans changed to a hospital, and they were rooms, probably the Sunday school, I don't know. Anyhow, few people took a room. Erwin took not a room. Erwin took a kitchen because there was a stove. And right away he took, so this were, I believe, 4 of us at this time. 5. Erwin, his friend, and 3 girls. And there was a bunk bed. And we slept partially on the floor, partially on the bunk bed, and covered with the rugs that we had with us, because it really was rugs. Like I had a horse blanket full with holes, but this was covered. And at least we had a stove. And Erwin found in the basement coal, and he put the coal, it was warm and nice. The next day, about 4 o'clock in the morning, Erwin went out in the town. This was his hometown, so he knew where to go. Came back, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and said, "We are going out. I found an apartment." What means you found an apartment? Yes, I found an apartment where the Germans left, and it's an empty apartment. But in order to stay it empty, I saw a family from the border of Poland and Germany, and I told them, I asked them, what are they doing? They are looking for an apartment. So I told them, don't worry, I will give you an apartment. But first you have to come to this apartment and watch that nobody else will come in, because I am doing it for the Russian soldiers, officers. I am requiring this apartment, and you wait here and I will give you an apartment. Really and truly, we came, all our belongings under arm, and we went to this apartment. It was 2 bedroom, the shuttered windows, and I hope that I don't repeat myself. And meanwhile, Erwin took these people and showed them to the post office. The whole post office is yours. So many rooms, so many places, you can live here. And this is what he gave them. Meanwhile, we had the apartment at night. So somehow, people were dispersing, and we were 9 of us. It was very cold. We brought the mattresses into the kitchen, and we slept on the mattresses, all of us. 2 days later, because we really ruined this apartment. The windows were broken, as I said, so they had a coconut rug, loafer, how you call it, runner in the hall. They cut it to pieces, took nails and nailed it to the windows. It was ruining, yeah, but this was our life. We had to live. We didn't want to freeze. And of course the janitor went to the Russians and told them, to the headquarters, the people are ruining the apartment. And the Russians said, you have to get out. It happened that Erwin met his cousin's husband on the street, and he said, listen, I know here somebody has 3 bedrooms, and 2 he occupies, and he wants to give, this is a Polish person, and he has 1 bedroom, and instead to give it to the Russians, he wants any one of us to live there. So we moved there, and I was the only woman, and there were 3 boys. who helped me as only possible. They brought food. They put the oven on. They even Erwin found me somewhere a pair of gym shoes. So they tied my laces. They were so good to me because I was running the household for them.
Now, Irving was one. Who were the other two?
Friends.
Friends.
Yeah.
Who had been in the camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Erwin took them out and told them where to go, what to look for, because Erwin knew the town and he knew where the restaurants were, and he understood that in the restaurants will be food. In the apartment we found a big overseas trunk, and Erwin used to bring potatoes and potatoes and potatoes and potatoes till the trunk was full, you know, a huge trunk, and beans and coals they found, and I was cooking. Idea about cooking I had none whatsoever, but I cooked a dinner, a soup, beans with potato, and then the second dish was dry potatoes with dry beans. It happened that people came from other camps through Częstochowa, and people, let's say, from Theresienstadt wanted to go back to Germany, or, you know, from different other places. And they knocked to the doors, to our doors, to somebody else's door. Our door was always open. Our table had always 20 people. Small table, but, you know, we ate in shifts. I cooked a big pot of whatever, everyday beans and potatoes, and we all ate. And whatever Erwin brought, sometimes synthetic cheese, sometimes something else, we always gave out the people to have on the road.
Elizabeth, that doesn't sound like very good food now, but it must have been good compared to what you had
When
in
you
camp.
talk about bad food, I will tell you something. That right after the first meal that I cooked was, we had already potatoes, Erwin brought synthetic cheese and marinated mushrooms. And I cooked the potatoes, and at this time I didn't know how long you have to cook an egg. To be soft, I thought as longer you cook it will be softer. Anyhow, I put it all together, and my husband, who was not my husband yet, he refused to eat it. He was hungry and he could not eat it. It was really horrible. So it really didn't matter later on. You know, I developed my culinary skills, but at this time it was food. It was beans and potatoes cannot be very bad.
And better than what you had in camp.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The funny thing was that we had, how do you call the eggs of lice? Nuts? How you call it? You don't know.
No.
Anyhow, we had it full in the hair. And we cleaned each other as possible as we could. I put the water in the bathtub and I washed the clothes that we had on our back. But then Erwin started to go out, and it was called Schaber. This was a slang for going out and to find clothes. Wherever an apartment was empty. Okay. Erwin was still mourning his brother. He knew that he is alive. He felt that he is alive. We lived in Częstochowa for a while, and then we decided to part. At this time, Erwin and I decided to marry, and we will see. We try it. If it will be okay, we will stay together. If not, there is always a way out. No, it is already 45 years, and we still are together and still warning each other there is a way out. Anyhow, I was missing my hometown, and I hoped that I will find somebody. I knew that I will not find my mother and sister because I knew that they were killed in Treblinka. But my brother, who was in Belgium. And we had agreement before the war that we will be in touch through Red Cross in Geneva, but I forgot the Geneva. Not forgot, I had typhoid and I forgot. I knew Red Cross. This was in my mind. I wanted to go back to my hometown, Lodz, and I went with Erwin, and we slept one night in our friend's apartment. Our friends got back their home. Oh, took it back. They had an apartment house, and their apartment was full with people who didn't have where to be. But there on the first floor you have an apartment. There is a lot of, not downen, only the one that you put in the old time on the mattress. It was heavy feather bed. Heavy. God, was it cold? This was February, end of February. It was so cold. And that I got dressed under all these feather beds that were weighing a ton. But we couldn't stay there for a long because this was no future. We are looking now for an apartment. Sure enough, we found an apartment, a room and a half. The rest of the apartment was, the floors were taken off, apparently to heat somebody's place. The bathroom was so full that we could not use it, but it was a room and half. And okay, we will do it. We will take it, and we will eventually make something of it, and we will live here. I go out, and Erwin went back to Częstochowa to bring our few belongings that we already had, the bed that we got, and it was a horrible big picture over the bed, horrible picture, like a not poster. No, it was a horrible. Erwin liked it. This he has to bring. So he went to Częstochowa to bring our belongings. Meanwhile,
by train,
by train,
Uh-huh.
by train, but no tickets. The train, the locomotive stood in this direction. It means that it goes toward where he wants to go. If it would stand here, this is the opposite direction. Yeah, this is how we came also from Częstochowa to Lodz. No tickets. Later I will tell you about, remind me to tell you about traveling. And no post, no mail. So I wrote a letter, and a friend went to the railroad station and asked to deliver it to Erwin there. Because in meanwhile, I met a friend who told me that there is a guy who has an apartment, and there are 3 rooms. He wants to divide it. He wants to sell it. Sell it. Since Erwin was trading already at this time, we had few zlotys. And I write to Erwin, I found a bum, an apartment. Please leave everything and come. He really left everything. He had already loaded the suitcase. He left it there, but took the sewing machine. In meanwhile, I was living in this, I was living in the apartment that Erwin found, the first one, talking to this guy, keep it, because Erwin is coming and we will take it, and then sewing at my friend's house, the one that we slept the first night there, because they had a sewing machine. They had friends who worked in ministerium, and I right away had a lot of work, and I needed a place to live. In effect, Erwin came, brought me the sewing machine. We moved there. We gave him 3,000 zloty. I cannot tell you how much it was. It was a lot, but at this time Erwin was trading cigarettes and trading. And So the life started to look better. 4 girls who were with me in concentration camp who were very devoted because we were helping each other. They came and helped me in sewing. And then my birthday happened to be May the 8th. Yeah, in meanwhile we married 10 couples by a butcher who knows the Talmud and he is permitted to perform the marriage. They were 10 couples. With few of them we stay in touch because they live in Israel and we have together the anniversary. We don't celebrate the anniversary in March, which was the day, only January 16 to 17. This is when we all met our spouses.
All right.
And I am not a hysterical person, but this was too much.
All right, Elizabeth, we're back. So
we were talking about celebrating the anniversary.
Yes, of the wedding.
Yeah.
And you celebrate them in January when you met.
Yeah, because this was really the date that mattered. This was the beginning of the new life. We were in Lodz, in my home city, and I walked the streets, not a familiar face.
But now let's see, you were telling me about something that happened in May.
Okay, I come to it,
right.
because this happened in Lodz already. We lived in the apartment that we rented, and I had work, and Erwin was trading, was okay. We had one room empty, we didn't have it furnished, and a friend met me once and said, you know, here is a couple from Russia. They just came from Siberia. Could you rent them the apartment? I said, what means rent? It stands there. Let them come. They were in Siberia, they were in the Siberian tundra, and they were cutting the trees in below 60 degrees, and it was tragic. But it was a very nice couple. He was, he told us that he was once a baker, a pastry baker. And she was singing beautiful. So I and the 4 girls, we were working, and she was sitting and singing for us. And we two were in the kitchen, each cooked her own, and we had very good relationship. It was lovely, really lovely. And you know, to have yet somebody at home too, it was nice. May the 8th is my birthday, and Erwin went out on the street, not knowing, no radio, no nothing. He came back, excited, brought me in Poland. My birthday flower is lilac. He brought a bunch of lilac, a bottle of vodka, and a gold coin, Russian gold coin, which he bought. But I have a best gift for you for your birthday. It's the end of war. He found it out on the street. Okay, so funny. Nobody, we didn't have connection with our friends who one lived in this city, one in the other. Few of our very good friends came to my birthday from all over Poland. And this guy said, oh, I will make the guy that lived with us, I will make a cake. Bring me eggs, and of course this was no problem. We went to the market, brought eggs, 40 eggs. He will make a cake from 40 eggs. No, mixer was not available, but it was a new bucket and a fork, and he tried to beat the 40 egg whites. And he made the cake. And the cake was this high. 40 eggs. So, you know, we were joking about it, but we had a good time. And we drank, which I cannot drink. I have a very light head. I jumped on the table and I was dancing, and Erwin said, we are leaving to look for my brother, Menachem. Oh, everybody said, and Erwin is drunk. He doesn't know where Menachem is. There are so many camps. Where can he be? He said, I am going to Buchenwald. God knows. How did he know? How did he know of Buchenwald? Nobody knows till today. And they are things, this is like we came here to Nashville. This is also a story. Anyhow, we are going to Germany. So this was 8th of May, and the 25th, I believe, of May, we lived yet with a very good friend of ours. We had a double bed in the bedroom. We slept in one, he slept in the other. And Erwin says to the friend, listen, you take all our belongings and go to the next town which the trading was done and sell it. And he wanted to go with us. Meanwhile, a former neighbor of his, they were 5 sisters and they all survived together. They were caring of each other very much. One of the sisters fell in love with him and she wanted to marry him. The oldest sister came to Erwin and said, this was the day when he was in the other town, Erwin, please don't take him away. He will have a very good life with my sister. And they know each other for so many years, please leave him here. In the morning, he came at night, went to bed. About 4 o'clock in the morning, Erwin shows me out. I went out. Erwin talked to him. And I heard only, please don't leave me. And Erwin said, I leave you for your good. They came to, we sent right away a bouquet of white lilac for the newlyweds. And they came with a bottle of vodka to the railroad station. And we drank there for good luck. But the people who lived with us didn't want to go to part with us. They wanted to go with us. Okay, so we go together. Where do we go? There stands a train. So the direction shows toward German border. Oh, we will go in. How can you go in? There is no place. So Erwin helped us through the window to go to the bathroom. The bathrooms were so little that 2 people standing, this was all that could take. But we went 3 in, and her husband wanted to do something out yet. Meanwhile, the train leaves. Now we 3 are sitting and standing in the bathroom, because they were women, you know, peasants with chicken and loud, and it was full. And we see that the husband of the friend is running after the train. I don't know, maybe he went to bathroom or something. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. He runs after the train, but the train started to slow. He caught the last compartment, and slowly he came by, and we pulled him through the window in the running train in, head down. And we landed eventually in the border town on the Polish side, border Germany and Poland. We had enough vodka with us because we knew that the Russians for vodka will do anything. We wanted to go through the river to Germany. And Erwin gave the vodka, and we were waiting, this part and that part, and eventually we got on the little boat. They were little rowboats. Okay, and we came to the other side. The other side was Halle in Germany. We stayed there in the wet grass till the morning because we did not know where to go, and we went eventually to town, and we found a place, a so-called Jewish community. The few Jews that were there formed a Jewish community. And they said, we stayed there together with another family of 4 in one room in the former factory of Gering tobacco factory. So we were given the room to share with this family. And few days, and Erwin meanwhile started to make plans. In 2 days he will go to look for his brother, 2-3 days. Where are you going? Everybody asked him. Buchenwald. Why Buchenwald? I don't know, Buchenwald. Meanwhile, it was the rezoning done. The Russians were to take it. At this time when we came, they were Americans, and the Russians were to take it in few days. You remember the rezoning, there was British and American and Russian. Of course, we didn't want to be with the Russians. But Erwin wants to go to look for his brother. So he said to me, so, we will try not to be separated again. If you stay here, you wait for me. If by any chance you will be evacuated from here, you write me, you scratch on the door where I can find you. Because all the other people were to go to the American side. A day before the Russians were to come, they were to go to the American side, to Hamburg. 3 days Erwin was not there. The day comes, all the people are leaving the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning to Hamburg, and I will stay here by myself. I am in the shower, and I hear, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. Came out from the shower, Erwin was with his brother. How he found him, his brother will tell by himself. But it was a miracle. He came to Buchenwald, and he met a guy from his hometown who during the bombardment lost a leg and stayed in Buchenwald. And he knew that everybody from Germany goes back to Poland. Here is somebody from Poland came to Germany. What are you doing here? Oh, I am looking for my brother. So he said, you know what, you go to the UNRRA and you will find out, maybe you will find something. How old is your brother? 13. They asked him, 13. 13, the children, we sent the children to France, and from there they will go to Palestine. So Erwin said, okay, give me a pass that I can go to France. Never mind me there sitting. He goes to France. No, they give him this pass, and while he waits till they write it, there are a lot of papers on the table, and he sees a paper with his brother's name. He said, what is this? We gave them boots, shoes, boots. So he was here. I know that he was here, and now I am going to France to look for him. He goes out, meets another guy, and he says, what are you doing here? I came to look for my brother. I am going to France because they send the children to France. He said, what are you talking to France? 5 minutes ago I saw him on a bicycle. They started to call to loudspeaker, and in 5 minutes they were together. What happened? His brother knew that his brother was left in Poland. So he didn't want to go to France. He wanted to go back to Poland. His story you will have on another tape. So we found the brother. Now, this was 11 o'clock at night. At 5 o'clock in the morning, we are going to Hamburg. Thank God I am going, Erwin is going, and his brother. So we lived in Hamburg for a while. And our child was conceived on a roof. There was a very beautiful garden there.
Which of your sons?
Victor.
Victor.
Yeah. And we stayed in Germany. We lived in a beautiful place. It was a a suburb of Hamburg. Very green. It was on a hill, you know, like San Sosalito, something like that. Beautiful. And I could not even say that we enjoyed life. It was a Kinderheim, children home, and we were gathering children from all the area to get them to Palestine. So we had American Joint Distribution Committee was involved, the Jewish Agency who sent teachers, and we also had teacher, one from Latvia, but she lived in America, and one American and one British one, and two or three teachers, two soldiers from the Jewish Agency, and two women, also from Israel. And we formed a children home. They were teaching. We, the older one, were auxiliary. We were helping, we were cooking, we were cleaning, we were doing whatever had to be done. I was pregnant, and not far away, 5 minutes by walk, was a hospital. The nuns were operating it. So we wanted me to go there to the hospital, and they said, no, sorry, you belong to displaced person hospital, which is 60 miles away. So we went back to the American Joint people, and they said, there goes the guy in a uniform. You didn't want to be with Jewish people before, now the Jewish will be in this hospital, in no other, and she will have the best care as she can only get. I really had magnificent help. The doctor, who was a former Nazi, was very careful. Unfortunately, in the 6 months, I quit feeling the baby, and I was afraid that he is not alive, and I was afraid that being afraid that they will give me a German child. But I was not very smart at this time about having children, since I never had. So, you know, I was not so terrible upset about it. But later on, at the end, I really was upset. And one of the Israeli Palestinian soldiers, and he was walking me on the hills every day. He was holding his hand here on my lower back and pushing me up, and I had to walk if I wanted or not. It didn't help. Vic was not a very easy delivery. It was forceps, but the doctor was really magnificent. He was so careful about me, because maybe he was afraid, you know. But he was very nice, I must say. Maybe he had to be a Nazi. I don't know. I know that he was nice to us. And while I was under anesthetic and Vic was born, I woke up and I said, I want to see the child. The child is born, congratulations. I want to see the child. We have to give you another anesthetic. And the child was then like a mummy. At this time, a child was wrapped like this. So I unwrapped him, and I saw he has a spot, brown spot on the hand. That he could be already changed at this time, I didn't think about it. Anyhow, when I walk and I saw that he has the spot, it's my child. I was treated very good. First of all, the terrible food that they were given there in hospital, Erwin was very generous and gave to the German women who don't have enough food. And the girls who lived 5 minutes from us brought me food, magnificent food every day. I was 8 days in the hospital, and the 8th day was Brit Milah, circumcision. And they brought me, at this time, this was ridiculous, they brought me on stretchers home through the very narrow window. Somehow got me, because the whole, we lived in a barrack that Erwin got from them and fixed the 3 tiny rooms for us. One was so-called dining room. There was a desk and 2 chairs. and a sink, and then was our bedroom, two narrow iron beds, not even twin, much narrower. And the third one was the baby room. The baby room was adorable. This was the first Jewish child in the area. We had 260 people from the area, including the children in the kinderheim and the school children. And these children were aged between 3 to 20. The 20 never said that they are 20, because 17 was really the border. Okay, Vic was there, and I felt very uncomfortable in this place. I felt very uncomfortable in Germany, period. When we went to movie, I just wanted not to see a German. I was sick. We come to the streetcar. A German invalid comes and says, "Get up, I want to sit." I didn't think that we should get up. And we did not get up, but it was, the thought that he orders me now to get up for him. I didn't make him an invalid. But it was really very, very hard on me. I am not superstitious, but when the child was born and when I walked him in a carriage, German women said, "Ah, what an adorable child, what adorable child." I was not superstitious, put a red ribbon on the carriage. I just did not want them to see him, even. Anyhow, we lived there helping, still working. I was teaching handwork, the girls, and I was already, they took me off the course, like washing floors and so forth. And always one of my girls, of my students, was taking care of the baby while I was teaching. Erwin was teaching the boys handwork, very successful. We had exhibitions. And, people from area around the Jewish displaced people came. And then one day, Erwin went to Bergen-Belsen.
Let me interrupt right there. Keep your thought. Okay.
In Bergen-Belsen, he found my best friend with whom I was in concentration camp.
Now, let's put in here, Bergen-Belsen had been a concentration camp. It was now a displaced persons
Right.
camp. So that many people had moved in, and some who had been there were still there.
Stayed.
Yes,
Yeah.
all right.
Her sister was sick with dysentery,
Yes.
yeah, and eventually she got better, and she married an old neighbor of theirs, an old man. He was till the end of his life, he was called by the family the old man. But he gave her food. And there are many, many marriages like this that happen after the war. Food was very essential. But he saw that the old man asked this friend of mine to be a servant to the sister. The sister was in bed. She was already okay. And she had to serve breakfast, she had to wash her, to do this and that. And Erwin came home to Blankenese, where we lived, and said, I am bringing her back. He didn't know her, but she was my friend. We lived at this time, the children, this was where we lived, was the property of banker Warburg, who lived at this time in the States. And there was a guest house. We, the workers, lived in the guest house, which was very convenient, tiny rooms, but pleasant. All the property was very pleasant. Now, I was already pregnant then, and in the beginning, I think it was third, 4th month, and he brought her. But rations that we got from Red Cross was only for so and so many people, and no more. How Erwin got for her another one, this is a miracle, I don't know. But he got it. And since we didn't use the rations, we didn't have to, because we got from American Joint Distribution Committee enough food. I got special a lot of food because of the child. I got meat additional, I got 2 pounds of butter for a week. Can you imagine 2 pounds? I don't eat this much butter in a year. And there was a German woman who was the gardener's wife, and she was always baking for us. The brother, Erwin's brother, went to the school. And there was a bunch of them, I believe 7 of them, if I am not mistaken. Anyhow, when the woman baked a sheet of cake, they came in, it was like lotus, gone. But the boys lived there, and he knew that he has his brother to take care. We celebrated his 15th birthdays there by buying him a bicycle. And the life was, in one way it was normal, because Erwin was trading. He already was trading bigger thing. He bought me a diamond little ring, and he bought me a diamond necklace, a little one. But it was, you know, it was something, the first thing that I got. Then when Vic was 1 year old, this was the first aliyah, the first trip of children with certificates to Palestine. Vic, with the children, got a certificate, but he couldn't go by himself. So he had to have chaperones, his parents. So we went with the first aliyah. In meanwhile, the friend whom he brought to us, she was really very close friend. And we brought there a young boy also, you know, a little bit older than her. And he saw that Erwin brought me flowers, he brought her flowers. He saw that Erwin did something for me, he learned, he did it too. Erwin was from home. His father had a shoe factory, and during the war Erwin had to take it over in the beginning when he could work. So he knew how to cut the top of shoes, and very elaborate, since he is an artist. He knew to make pretty things. So he bought leather and he made shoes for me and for her, and then he brought to a shoemaker who put it together. He bought fabric, old coat, good-looking coat, to remodel for me and for her. So she was called, our name was Lipschitz at this time, and she was called Lipschitz. They called her Edja Lipschitz, because she was our family. And they married they went with Aliyat Bey. Do you know what Aliyat Bey is? The illegal...
Yes. Yeah. Well, go ahead, say what it is.
Aliyat Beit is the illegal travel to ascent to Palestine. They were 3 times backed by the British, and the 3rd time eventually they landed in Cyprus. But when they came back the 2nd time, they married. They married in Bergen-Belsen. Vic was then 3 months old. And Erwin said, so, if you decide to go with him, to take him with us, we will take a taxi and we will go. If not, I will go with the children who go to Bergen-Belsen too, on a truck. Gratefully, I decided that we will go. That we take the child and we go, because the truck broke down and 2 youngsters were killed. And who knows, it could be Erwin. So this also was one of the omens. I am a very strong believer in fate. And so they eventually landed in Cyprus. When we eventually came to Palestine...
What year was this?
This was 47. Mm-hmm. 47. And I was pregnant with Alex. And I was sick. I had some problem with Vic, so I was not supposed to pick up even a glass of water. And with Alex double knot, I was in bed for 5 months. But when we went to Palestine, and Erwin took care of all the people, all the luggage, of everything, I was carrying 2 suitcases and the carriage. And it was okay. Alex was born very strong boy. He was born just before the independence. No, just the year of independence in 48. 47. I am sorry, he was born in 47, just before the independence, right. And we got a very small apartment for which we paid very little. This was one little room. It was in Kiryat Ono. It was one of the new settlements for the new people. It was a 4 apartment house, but the apartments were tiny. And when the child was born, we had an iron bed and an iron, you cannot call it, how do you call trundle here, I believe, you call it. But this was not trundle, but another iron bed that you fold the legs and pushed under. And so then we could move in the room. So we had, when Alex was born, to buy another bed of this kind to push under the baby bed. Otherwise we couldn't move. So Erwin was very always industrious, and he stole boards in Pardesim. Pardesim are orange groves, and everybody was stealing them because we didn't have money. Boards, and he made a porch, and the porch served as kitchen and dining room. The dining room table was smaller than a bridge table, and he made from the former kitchen a room for the children that exactly 2 folding beds, narrow, not American, fitted in the length of it. In daytime we pushed them under the wall, had a drape there, and the children could play in this little place. Mostly they played outside. So this is how our life in Israel started. But a month after we came, Alex was not born yet. Why did we come to Palestine? We wanted really to go to Australia. Or Erwin wanted Norway. For me, Norway was out, it's cold. Australia. Okay, but if we go to Australia, we will not stay Jews. Which was very hard for both of us, because we were not religious Jews from home, we were traditional Jews, and Hitler taught us double to be Jews, and how could I go to a church when I don't believe in it? So, the thought was very, very bad. In Blankenese, when we were in Germany, we met a soldier from the Jewish brigade, an Englishman, who had an aunt in Tel Aviv. And when we were talking with him, a young guy, 21-year-old, he said, I have an aunt in Tel Aviv. I said, I have a cousin in Tel Aviv, I don't know her address. A very close cousin. Oh, he said, let me put it in the paper. Lo and behold, I am getting a letter from my cousin. She is very poor, very poor. But she lives in Tel Aviv. I don't have no one else. This, what I was looking for my brother through the Red Cross, did not bring any results. When we were though in Lodz, in my hometown, I went to the cemetery. The cemetery was in terrible shape. My father died when I was not 6 years old. And as a youngster of 12, 13, I used to go just to talk to my father. We went there, and I scratched, it was marble, the name was in marble, engraved, and they were heavy chains. This all was gone. The Germans took marble, the German took every piece of steel, of iron. This was gone. But I found the place. It was grown, overgrown, but we found it. And I scratched there the date that we have been and my name, that if my brother will come, he also will come to this place, will find me. Didn't find my brother. We came to Israel and we lived with my cousin in one room with cockroaches, and it was a horrible old house. 5 families had one bathroom. Till we got next month an apartment. And what we brought with us were 2 sewing machines. This is what we bought in Germany. So right away, she started to talk, and I didn't start to talk, but people started to talk that I am sewing. What did I do? I used to go to people, take work, bring it to my cousin's home, prepare it for fitting, went there for fitting. One day I come to a lady that I had her fabrics and prepared for fitting, and she says to me, "You told me that you are from Lodz. What is your maiden name?" I said, "Dobrzyński." "Dobrzyński? My cousin has a best friend, Dobrzyński. She lives in the States." I said, "Sophie Dobrzyński?" She said, "Yes, Sophie Dobrzyński." So I said, "Uh-huh." She repeated the name after me. I said first, Sophie. So this might not be that. She said, "You know what? Go to my cousin and she will tell you." I never told Erwin. Yes, he knew where I am going, but Erwin never came, when he was in Tel Aviv, to this place where I was supposed to be at 12 o'clock. I ring at the door and I say to the lady, "That's my husband." Silly. Why? He never came. She opens the door, it's my husband. I jump at him and I say, "Erwin, my brother is alive, and I am already out of my mind." And Erwin says, "Quiet down, you don't know yet." Erwin was always like this. "We will see." We didn't have money for taxi, and we didn't have patience to wait for a bus. We ran through the streets to this lady, to the cousin of this lady. She called her up that we are coming, and she was waiting. And I say, tell me. And I say, she just had a letter yesterday from them. My brother's handwriting was so horrible that at night I could recognize it. And she couldn't find the letter. She was so nervous, she couldn't find the letter. But she found, you knew John,
Mm-hmm.
John Dobrin.
Yes.
She found his picture. And since he looked exactly like my brother, I said, "You don't have to show me the letter." This was the 8th of July.
Mm.
We were exactly 1 month in Israel, in Palestine. The lady sent a cablegram to my brother, and we got an answer, "The happiest birthday in my life." And this, we started to correspond. He right away started, since he lived at this time in Texas, he started to make papers for us. And of course Erwin didn't have work, and I had occasional work, and 1 egg for a child. And then it was, a child should have 1 egg a day at this time. Mm. And this was a problem, because it cost 2 pennies. Mm-hmm. And we had a very hard time. We had to take on credit in the grocery. And one day Erwin comes home and tells me, the one that I work with, he tells me, Erwin already had some minor job, and he tells me that he spends much less money than we do. I said, "Do they have children?" No, we had 2 children at this time. Yeah, 2 children we had. So, no. What does he spend money on it? So Erwin told me this. Did he tell you that he spent money on soap? Did he tell you that he spent money on toilet paper? No, no, no. So I said, listen, don't listen to the man. I really spent little money, as little as I can. I was smoking at this time, which was a big expense. And I say, I am doing my best. 2 days later, he comes and says, you go to the man and you tell him that you will not take any more on credit. Because every time you take something, he writes you double. And I did not double checked it, you know. And I say, how? I owe him 30 pounds. How can I tell him that I will give him £1 a week? From now on, you will take only as much as you have money, and £1 you will pay him every month. And my husband, when he wants something, this was it. And really, we stabilized ourselves, you know, because it was really, we always owe money. And this way we finally, my brother was not rich, he was a manager he was a chemistry engineer, and he was a manager of the battery. He lived in Belgium. When the Germans came, he ran to unoccupied France. The German came there. He, as a Polish engineer, with the Polish engineers, he got to Portugal, through Portugal to Canada. In Canada, they lived 1 year, and he wrote letters, and he got a job in Texas. No, first in Waltham, Massachusetts, then in Texas. Better job. Finally, he got the good job in Nashville. Our papers were made to Texas. 6 years later, since I was on Polish quota, which was overloaded, it took 6 years till we got our papers. At this time, we were rather not prosperous, but well-to-do. I mean, we didn't lack anything. We built our own house, which was a small house, but we built with help of neighbors. We did a lot by ourselves. We had our own house. And Erwin was a manager of a factory, and I was working very good, very comfortable job, because I was going homes to people to sew. You see, in Israel, this was already Israel at this time, every woman knows to sew. Here I came, and they came, Miss Elizabeth, would you please put a button for me? I don't know. Okay, so what I did, being at the people's house, I cut the dress, I fitted the dress, I sew it, and leave them to finish it. For them it was very comfortable. They paid me by day, very nice. They treated me like a queen. Miss Elizabeth, would you like to rest? And at 2 o'clock, before my children came home from school, I was home. I didn't have the mess at home, and it was very comfortable, and we put away not much money, but a little bit.
Let me interrupt you right here. Let's change down the tape. Okay.
When we decided to go to Israel, to Palestine at this time, we had very little to do with the Zionist movement. Because, let's say, at my home, it was a taboo to belong to an organization. Anyhow, we went because my cousin was there. And I am very grateful.
Before you change to that, remember you were talking to me about sewing.
About what?
Sewing. That Irving had become the manager of a plant, and you were doing sewing.
Sewing, yeah.
And you were making money.
Yeah, very good money.
And your brother had arranged for you
Papers
to go.
For us to come.
But you had to stay.
After 6 years, we decided we don't go. We are comfortable, we stay.
Aha.
We felt very comfortable in Israel. As we came the first time, and I had a chip on my shoulder when I saw a uniform, a Jewish policeman, I was scared. And no matter how much Erwin said, Elizabeth, it's a Jewish policeman, I was scared. A uniform for me was Germany.
Mm-hmm.
In the meanwhile, I tried to get restitution from Germany. I had a big pack, you know, my lawyer in Israel had a big pack and letters here and back, and nothing moved. We came, when we lived in Israel, I slowly, my nerves got quiet. In the beginning, I dreamt at night, and at this time, at the time of my imprisonment, I didn't have children, I was not married. I woke up at night screaming that the Germans are killing my children. And it was night after night. I had terrible dreams. But slowly I got also help. I got vitamins 12 and calcium and to quiet me down. And eventually, you know, each one of us who went through it in one way or the other was sick. Israel gave us a feeling of, first of all, as I told you before, we were dehumanized. We became humans again. We were respected, and we were exactly as the other person. And we gained our self-respect too. Even so that you never will be able to erase what is here. But Israel was good for us.
Now you say you were not a Zionist. Did
No.
you become a Zionist?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I will tell you what my feeling toward Israel is at the moment. At the moment, and you know, when I go to Israel today, I am at home because I never had a home. In Poland was not home. Concentration camp definitely was not home. Israel was home, and still is. When I go visit in Israel, I am home. I am going to my mother and father. As I can criticize my mother, and everybody can criticize mother and father and brother and sister, so I can criticize Israel. There are many things that I don't like about Israel. But yet I have to take a stand today. There are many things that I don't like what the Israelis do, but yet I feel that it has to be done this way. So I don't know, you call it Zionist or not. I am on my mother's and father's side.
You were there at the time of independence.
Yes.
Do you remember the War of Independence?
Yes, very vividly, because where we lived in Kiryat Ono, every day at 11 o'clock above were airplanes, Arab and Israeli. And but somehow, so we all ran, not we all women with children ran to the orange grove to hide. I said no. I closed the shutters, I gave my children bath, I put them to bed, and I laid between them. If it hit us together. I was very calm about it. And the war independence, of course, was very going rather strong, and eventually Erwin got a message that his brother's girlfriend came to us and told him that he was wounded in a finger. And while she said about the finger, she said that he had a bandage on the head. Eventually Erwin found out that his brother lost an eye. And one day, Saturday, Erwin was working. Erwin did not go to the army at this time because he was working 24 hours a day, making the fire throwers, you call it? Molotov.
Mm-hmm.
So he was busy, and sometimes really he slept at work, and 32 hours I didn't see him, you know. He was busy. It had to be done. One Friday he doesn't come home. Saturday he is not home. I think maybe something happened. Bombs were falling here and there. And the buses are not running Saturday. I started to walk 13 miles. I came to the place where he was working. My feet were bleeding in sun. Today I am wearing a hat so that it will not hurt my face. I was at the end of my strength. A neighbor took care of the children. I see Erwin's boss and I say, where is Erwin? You don't know? He went to Jerusalem to see his brother. Erwin went through Jerusalem. There was, only the way for convoys, and then there was that only the convoys with the food could go by. So they took Erwin and they left him in one place, let him off the truck, and he had to walk through the mountain to the other side where they will pick him up. It was really a very hardship for him till he found his brother. He had to know what it is because he really did not know. And then he found his brother in rather good shape. He lost half of his finger and he lost the eye. And he lost the bone here. But thank God he is okay now. And he just came back from Israel where he had another prosthesis put in. And he's okay. You looking at him, do you know him?
Yes, oh yes.
It's hard to see that he doesn't have it. Okay, so now we are all together again.
All right, but now, Elizabeth, Israel is home, it is mother, it is father. You stayed there how long?
9.5 years. I never spoke Hebrew. I spoke Polish to my children. They answered me Hebrew. The teacher at school said, your children don't, I can see that your children don't speak Hebrew at home. Okay. Whenever I go to Israel, I speak Hebrew. I speak broken typewriter, but I speak Hebrew. And it somehow came to me. You see, my sister-in-law is a Sabra, born in Israel. And she is of Russian parents, so she understands Polish. And we always talk double language. I spoke Polish, she spoke Hebrew. I understood her, she understood me. Fine. But now I speak Hebrew, I really have no problems. You know, the sophisticated words are missing, but otherwise I have no problem. This is one of the languages that I master. Listen, when I came here, I didn't speak a word English. And I didn't go to no school. For 5 years, I didn't read the newspaper. But you see, I have been working at home when we came here. Mm. And when I had to tell the customers that I want to make a sleeve, I show her. This is what I want to make, or a color, or whatever. But the television was going all day. Till today, I don't understand very well the radio. But the television just came into my... I didn't look because I didn't have time. The television was behind the corner where I had my sewing machine. But I heard it. I heard it. I still don't speak good, but I am teaching today the Russians speak English.
By the time you left Israel, which must have been
57. Yeah, let me tell you about it too.
By the time you left, had your nightmares stopped? Had you stopped being afraid of policemen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It
stopped about, I would say, 5 years later. About 50. In 50, I was okay. Now, let me tell you about I came here. I still was in touch with my lawyer. I still wanted to get my restitution. They made all kinds of hardship. Erwin is very stubborn. Erwin did not even apply. There is no way they can pay me. So he did not apply. I applied, and as I told you, my fault was this big. And I finally got in touch. I had to stand in front of German doctors. They have to test me and qualify me. Luckily, I don't remember the name of the people. They were in Central Hospital. And I got a very good report from them. They were very sympathetic. And I was hysterical there too. Because when I talk to a German, no matter who he is, even till today, I am very uncomfortable. About this I will tell you too. Anyhow, they found me, this was wife and husband, 25% invalid, which I was supposed to get pension. It was sent to Germany, and the Germans said so. Yes, she was 25% invalid, but since the time passed, she is now much better. She is only 15, and for 15, if she wants to get something, she has to come to Germany. To Germany? I? Never. No money can get me to Germany. To stand in court in Germany, and they eventually will give me some money. I live without their money, comfortable. I probably would live more comfortable if I will get it, but it's not worth for me to lose my quiet. What did I want to tell you about? A second ago I told you, I will tell you. Oh boy. A second ago we were talking about something and I will say I tell you. Okay, so anyhow, I get from them $1,000 for my teeth, and that's it. Finished. I have nothing to do with them. I wanted to say something of interest.
How was it that you left Israel in 1957?
Oh, this is what I wanted to tell you. Erwin was at this time in the Sinai campaign as a soldier. He came once in a month home. Meanwhile, and we started to make the papers. This was 9 years later, the 6 years after we denied. And then I decided I have enough. I want my children to have a father. We are going to the States. A little that I know that my brother will live only 5 years after we came, because I think that we then would come rather as visitors. But at this time my feeling was we are going because I cannot stand it every time Erwin goes for maneuvers, and this was once, I believe, a month a year, and then this war, and then was something in between also he went, you know, they suddenly were called. And I said, enough is enough. And we started to make the papers. Erwin came home for furlough, and he said, even if I will not come on this day, this was sometimes in June, you are taking the children, you are going. I said, no, forget about it. If you will come, we will go. If you don't come, we are not going. The papers, everything, tickets we already had. In order to have the tickets, this is what my husband is. We sold our house for nothing. For $3,000. In order to have for the tickets with this little money that we saved, we sold for $3,000. Today the house is worth over $500,000. We could rent it, but my husband wouldn't take for my brother a penny. He would not take a penny from no one. This is how he is. So, and it worked out very fine this way. It should be like this. So, a week before we left, Erwin was released. And so we went. We went then by ship because it was cheaper than the plane. It was a very hard voyage because the ship ran into trouble in the same place where Andrea Doria sank. And Erwin was the strongest in the family. Then was Alex. Vic was weaker and I was the weakest. I was the captain of the ship. Vic was with me. Alex was tied with belt to the bed, and Erwin and Alex were so sick, so very, very sick. We came to New York, January 11, 57, which is another anniversary that we celebrate. And we found finally a home. And this is a home because we are 33 years here. We were 18 years in Poland, which was not homeland really. We were in concentration camp, which definitely was not home. We were 9.5 years in Israel, and we are 33 years here. This is our home. And I talk here to somebody that is longer than us, and he still does not feel home. I am sorry for this person.
When did you and Irving start telling your story about your experiences?
About 20-some years ago, yeah, this I want to tell too, a Gentile friend asked us if we would come to their church, Episcopalian church, in Madison, Donassa, I don't remember, St. Paul. I prepared a typed history of my life because this was the first time. I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it, but I decided I ought to do it. It's time that I do it. And I wrote, I glued together the pages, and I made accordion, you know, that it will be easy for me to do. And when I started to talk, I didn't look anymore at the paper. I started to cry terrible. The people were crying with me. They heard first time in their life the story. And they were very comforting. But I eventually told the story. Of course, not as long, as much as I said here, but I told the story. Then, if I am not mistaken, it was Kiwanis Club that called us. And so people started to call us to schools. We have been twice in Harpeth Hall, we were in Brentwood Academy. And sometimes we were very pleased that the youngsters knew. Sometimes we were amazed that they didn't know a thing. One day I am getting a call, and he says, "Shalom, here is Richard Smith. I am a minister of the Lutheran Church in Tullahoma. Would you like to come and tell us?" And I said, "Certainly." "Oh, thank you very much." I said, "Look," and of course, since this will be at night, the provision for your stay will be provided. So I said, "Look, if we have to come anyhow, why not to talk to schools? Would you do it?" In effect, we talked to a school, and we were stunned. Not a slightest idea that there was war, that there was Mr. Hitler, nothing. We talked to the faculty of the junior college, and we were amazed what stupid questions they asked. And then we had a long interview with the newspaper. I don't know where I have it, but it was a good interview. And at night we went to the church. It was very interesting. First of all, they prepared a potluck dinner.
Let me interrupt you right here. Just one minute. For church potluck dinner.
They made a potluck dinner, which was very nice because they bought special for us kosher meat. That it was cooked in the pot that pork was cooked before, that's another story. But you know, the thought behind it was really lovely. The people were extra, extra nice to us. And you must know that they all are of German descendants. We were sitting in the first row. There was the pulpit at which we were to stand eventually, and here was the Reverend Smith sitting with somebody else. Next, I was sitting, Erwin, next to him an old man and an old lady. Erwin wanted to be nicest to the man. You are long here, and are you from Tullahoma? And my name is Limor, what's your? He says, I am Brown. When he said Brown, we knew right away who he is. And we understood that he was brought, since he was working in the Arnold Center, you know, that he was brought together with Warner von Braun, as all the people that were brought forcefully. We know it. Okay. He was scribbling all the time. When Erwin, the Reverend Smith introduced Erwin, and Erwin was talking, and the man was sitting, scribbling all the time. I think I got very high blood pressure at this time. I felt that I am burning. Richard Smith saw it, and I have it till today. On his calling card is written, Elizabeth, say whatever you have to say. Never mind. Shalom, Richard. And he quieted me down by this. He saw what's going on. And then I spoke and Erwin spoke. And the people asked questions where were just right. But after the question period, we were socializing, and one lady comes to me and says, you never told us about the Poles. And I said, you're right. The Poles in many instances were worse than the Germans. Because I have a fact, I was working when I was in a ghetto. We went out to a very fancy hotel every day. We were let out, and we were to clean the apartments of the generals, officers, so forth. I met there a soldier who probably had a daughter like me, my age. And he was very nice to me. He was subordinate of somebody. And he talked to me. And one day he says to me, I will take you to the movie. You know, I knew that I have the gun to my head. But you know, it really didn't matter at this time. He took me to a movie. And I think that I look rather Semitic. And he put his life in danger, I think. But he did it for me. Before the movie was, of course, that the lies are everywhere and the Jews are the ones that brought it, and the cholera and the typhoid is all the fault of Jews, and everything was against the Jews, you know, before the movie started. And he was kicking me all the time. And, you know, don't, never mind. And I was at the movie and I forgot about the world for a moment. So there were some people. But the Poles, most of the Poles, there were some good Poles too. You go to Israel, you go to the Avenue of the Righteous, and you see that there were some people who deserved it. By the way, did you read the Schindler's List?
Yes.
You see, when I was lecturing wherever, I always told the youngster or whomever, read the book, because it doesn't, it's not bloody, but it's the right book. And it's true, because the man who told him all this story was on the Schindler List. He is a former teacher of Erwin's school friend. I don't know if he's still alive, in Los Angeles. And he had a purse shop of leather purse. And one day comes a guy and wants to buy a purse, and they started to talk. I was in concentration camp. I am an author. I was on Schindler List. And so it came to the book. And I find it a very informative book. And there is no blood in it. So because it would scare the people. So this is one of the real stories in the book.
You've done a lot with school children. You've done a lot to educate school children.
I hope so. I hope so. A matter of fact, when Erwin was sick, do you remember what you saw in our house?
Yes.
That the children sent him a tremendous card, and they made effort. They were only 4 Jewish children at Harpeth Hall, and they made effort to write it in Hebrew, the title, to wish him good health, and the letters that are behind it, and every girl wrote there. I think that we did something to them. I really think that we add to it. Today I was a little bit upset because I interviewed somebody, and she said to me, I said, we are obliged to do it. It is our obligation. And she said, we are not obliged to do anything to the world. We are obliged to do the one that died for it. I said, no. I don't, and I had to talk, while I was the interviewer. And I said, the people who died made us talk about it to the world, that it will not happen again. It might happen again now. With what's going on in the world, I am very much afraid that it might happen. You see, when somebody tells me that the genocide in Germany was the same one in Vietnam and in Ethiopia and wherever, it's not the same. Because here the people are not scientists. They murder. They are murderers. But this in Germany, it was scientific, thought out, programmed, tried out. This was, I don't have word for this, but premeditated murder, definitely. But it was till the last point, the big brains thought about it, how to do it. I am very sad that Erwin is not able to do anything anymore, because his idea was he wanted to make a monument, to make it a book with torn pages. And the pages were Einstein, Salk, the Jewish scientists who add so much to the world, and they were torn out. And how much the world probably would gain by not destroying so many people with brains. You cannot choose what you want.
No. Before we stop, talk about your children and your grandchildren.
What do you want me to tell?
What do they know? And how do they feel about yours and
For a
Erwin's
long time
experience?
I didn't tell them. Now I am, first of all, our children gave me last year a very nice gift, a Holocaust encyclopedia that is donated to the center, and everybody can read. And I read about my hometown, I read about Erwin's hometown. I didn't have time, to read more, but whenever I want to know something, I go there, and the children will have access. It's open there. You cannot take it out, but it's open. Alex's Sam came to me one day and says, Sapta, he calls us Sapta and Saba in Hebrew, and the other grandparents, Grandpa and Grandma. I would like you to tell me about what you went through the war. I smiled and, okay, I will tell you. I have to write 1.5 pages. So I told him some things. And he says to me, I think I have enough. I know everything. 11-year-old. 10 he was at this time. I said, okay. He came home. 2 days later, he calls me, Sapta, would you tell me some more? And he was sitting, I was crying also, and he was looking at my eyes and also had tears in his eyes. And he says, Sapta, you know, I really don't have enough. I said, I thought so. Because I was supposed to type the 1.5 page and not to write. But okay, he's interested. Now, Victor's son, Yossi, came to me. And he had a list prepared with questions. Because he was supposed to ask the questions were for the American people, what they thought of the war. And what they thought about what if the Americans did enough and so forth and so on. We didn't know anything what's going on in the world. There were some people who had contact with the underground, but we didn't know. We didn't know anything. So he needed a job to do at school, to write about it, and I gave him information. And I said, for other information, there is the encyclopedia. And more and more schools are teaching now, I think. And during the last Yom Shoah, you have been here, I don't think so.
Not this year,
No.
no.
A young lady, Jackie Hechtkopf, did organize this. She is a very soft-spoken young lady, and I talked to her a few days ago, and I said, Jackie, you are a child of survivors, I understand. She says, no. I said, how come? My father lived in Switzerland on the border of Germany and knew what's going on in Germany and knew what's going on in the world. Switzerland was neutral. And my mother is American. But my father wrote a diary, and he apparently talked to me about it. She is so interested in it, it's amazing. She is not even a child of survivors. And I hope that our children and our grandchildren will continue. Because if with the last of us who will be gone, if this should finish, the world will be doomed. And of course now with the thing that's going on in Europe and Germany, I am very much afraid that it might happen. I had here to interview a lady, and she tells me, first she said yes, and then I called her again and she says, no, I will not. Why? Because in Hungary, when we spoke against the Germans came in, they killed the people who spoke against. And I am afraid that it might happen here too. People are sick. I am sick too. I am sick in another way. Maybe I am sick because I am talking about it. I don't know. But none of us is normal. That you can be sure of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope that this will go to schools, and you know that this is not done in vain.
I want to make it a part of every school
I think
in the
so.
state
Thank you.
as a part of the Tennessee Commission's library.
Thank you. Click. Thank you very much, Cliff.